Hail! Welcome back to my channel. Today we will be discussing something that is a little different than usual. We will not be discussing the Elder Fufark today. On that note, don't worry, there are things in the works for Sawilo. It is just that I have been experiencing several things that I really feel the need to express through my channel, through this video. That have little to do with the Elder Fufark. They do have a correlation to it because a lot of the things that I have, as I have spoken about in my previous video on Algiz, they do have a lot to do with the experiences that the Fufark has been teaching me, or the energies and beings behind the Fufark. So likely Sawilo will be completed within the week probably, so expect to see Sawilo completed somewhere next weekend, so that could be anywhere from Friday night up to Sunday night. But yeah, for now I would like to discuss something different with you, and as you can probably tell by the title, if you are a Christian, you are likely not going to like this topic, which, you know, I understand, I accept. On that note, because I am not a Christian, I am very much a pagan who has been a Christian in this life. I am going to be discussing how one is to not be a Christian any longer. Meaning to say that what I am going to be discussing here is going to be a very blasphemous ritual that is going to undo your baptism. It is going to undo your devotion to the being that is most often called Yahweh, or YHWH, YHVH, or sometimes in more modern, albeit incorrect translations, Jehovah, who is often said to be God the Father in mainstream Christianity. Now, of course, this being has many different names: El Yahweh, Adonai, Sabaoth, stuff like that. In his avatar, supposedly Jesus Christ, he has many different names and forms for which he, in various religious cults and sects and mainstream religions of Christianity, has made himself known. However, in my experiences with dealing with people who are Christian or who were Christian, ever since I started looking into these spiritual contracts, again, as I have discussed in my previous video, Algiz, I have come to the conclusion that they all are, in fact, the very same being that in these contracts always makes himself known as the Lord YHWH, aka Yahweh. Now, of course, there are various mythologies, various stories about his point of origin. Some believe he is the almighty creator of the universe, which I, as you can hopefully tell by me uploading this video, very strongly disagree with. I do not think he is the divine creator. I do not think he is the almighty. Absolutely not. I have not seen this. I've pissed him off repeatedly. I'm still here. Sorry. I have my own gods who are just as capable of protecting me. I am quite capable of protecting myself. I have loyal spirits by my side. So, you know, I am quite frankly not convinced of this at all. And most people who I have spoken to who have gone through similar experiences have kind of proven my point. So what I would like to discuss is not so much Yahweh's origin, but it is mainly focused on, as I mentioned earlier, on how to, on a spiritual level, not be a Christian any longer. Because many people, like myself, have for years already turned away from Christianity. We went our own path. Some of you have turned to atheism, some of you have turned to paganism like I have. Some of you have, you know, become agnostic. Some of you have joined other religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, you name it. And, you know, that's all perfectly fine. I respect the choice of each and every one of you. But I'm assuming that if you are watching my channel, you are either a dabbler in the metaphysical, or you are a serious practitioner, or you are maybe curious because of the title. I don't know. Maybe you are a Christian that is watching this out of curiosity, and, you know, you're here to listen to what I have to say. That's fine too. I don't really care why you're here. I just feel obligated as a spiritual worker to share the information that has come to me, that I have found out through my own personal gnosis, through interacting with other people that have had similar, or perhaps in some cases even almost identical experiences as I have, or I have had, I should say. And I am here to provide you one of many options to permanently leave Christianity behind on any and all layers of existence. Because many people, like I said, where my original story was going with this, many people have abandoned Christianity and they just leave it for where it is, and they figure that, if I leave it behind here on the physical, that's just that, chapter closed, moving on with my life. Unfortunately, this is not quite how the spirit world works, as many of you who have experiences with contracts, some of you who are magicians, who have made pacts with certain deities, with certain, lords, ladies. You may know about the tradition of signing a contract, sometimes with blood, to then set it alight, burn it, and then an astral copy is made, and this copy is then kept by both yourself usually and by the particular lord or lady that you have made this pact or contract with. And the exact same thing, I can tell you, happens when one is baptized, irregardless of whether one is a baby, an infant, or whether one is a grown adult who is capable of making their own decisions. This is unfortunately just the nature of such dedications, and most beings, they very firmly respect this. Even those, I say that with very big quotation marks, of the darker persuasions, such as Lord Agaris, that I have personally worked with in a past life, and in some way in this life as well, though I have not made a contract in this life. I actually completed a contract that I had made 1500 years ago, which led me actually to the topic of Christian contracts through many different ways. And that is actually, thanks to him, part of the reason why I'm actually making this. So now, of course, some of you may think that this is obviously therefore a demonic trick, because, Lord Agaris is one of these 72 demons in the Lesser Key of Solomon. So, he's from the Gusha, or the Goetia, or however you want to pronounce it. So it has to do with high magic, ceremonial magic, and if you personally believe that that is somehow evil or satanic or whatever, again, feel free to click off this video, feel free to move on, quote your favorite Bible verse in the comments, do whatever you want. I don't really care. I am here specifically for those of you, again, who are interested in getting the fuck out of Christianity on a permanent basis. So, that said, I found out about these contracts through my contract with Lord Agaris, which had been active for about 500 years from a past life, which in and of itself has already shown me that the Christian version of the afterlife is just not what it seems, which I already knew by this point because I have been working in, various degrees of seriousness in the metaphysical over the course of the last several years. I've been quite active in the past few years, very much been developing myself in that regard. So I already knew this, as I said, but it kind of confirmed some suspicions I have had for the longest time. So, with that said, let's take a look at what I have discovered. So, what is the purpose of this video specifically? What are we going to be discussing now that I have got all the preludes, the intros, and all the disclaimers and all that stuff over with? Well, as I said, spirit contracts. As I have mentioned in Algiz, I had a spirit contract with Lord Agaris. It came to my attention that a spirit contract, unless a specific end date is discussed in the particular contract, usually lasts infinitely until the person that made them with the particular deity or spirit, that is not a deity, that is also possible, until they terminate them from their end. Because these contracts, they are valid on a spiritual, on a soul level sometimes even, and they carry over from lifetime to lifetime. This is what I have found. This is what I have found in not only myself and my own personal situation, but also in the situation of other people. So, whether you believe that a contract will automatically terminate because of the, I don't know, benevolence of the universe or something, this is quite frankly not the case. So, what exactly does that mean if it carries over through lifetimes? Well, let me give you an example. As I mentioned, I had a contract with the demon lord Agaris. I bargained with him back in the 1500s. Christianity still reigned supreme in Western Europe, where I was at the time located, which is ironically in this life where I was also born. So I'm assuming that somehow I came into contact with someone or someones who taught me about Lord Agaris, and who somehow taught me to get in contact with him. I know that I was a nobleman, so that means that I was able to have access to resources to likely find such things out if I really wanted to, hidden from the eyes of the church, obviously. But of course, because it was the 1500s at the time that I made the contract, which means that I would have been born in the, I don't know, probably somewhere in the second half of the 15th century, aka in the 1400s. So I was likely still baptized at birth, as most things go, under the Catholic regime that was present in the medieval era. So I apparently found out about Lord Agaris. I gave blood in front of the altar, and as it was stated, I made that pact. I got 45,000 demonic spirits to work for me, which, ironically, I did not know I had until, well, recently. I apparently used up those 12 contracts, those 12 tasks that I bargained with him for, excuse me. So I just had the army throughout the other 500 or so years. And, of course, because I did not know that, because I was reincarnated, you reincarnate with complete amnesia, unless you start working in the metaphysical, in which case you start having flashbacks of certain events. I did a lot of stuff in that life. I killed a few important people. I got myself into important places with the help of Lord Agaris. And Yahweh was, obviously, because I was before that I was a Christian, even though I apparently in that life really didn't buy into it, as I don't do now. Because as a nobleman, I was likely also capable of speaking different languages, or at least, because Agaris is a being who also teaches languages. So, I don't know, I may have even learned Latin or something, who knows. But basically, what it comes down to is I likely also spoke Latin, which is obviously the language in which the Bible at the time would have been written. I apparently knew Christianity was a control mechanism for the masses, to put it politely. And I was also very much aware of the existence of other forces. Now, of course, because Christianity has also committed the rather heinous crime of stamping out pagan religions, customs, and usurped them in many cases, twisted them and changed them and perverted them. I am also aware that this individual likely contacted other beings, probably beings of the original Germanic pantheons, because how else would I have asked for the Elder Futhark in that life? So I apparently got assigned, because I was technically a Christian, even though in my heart and in my mind I did not believe it in that life, as I do not in this life. Because I was technically dedicated to Lord Yahweh, as he calls himself in those contracts, I got punished for it. And that is where the story begins. 500 something years ago. Because you see, as I said earlier, most deities, those of the lighter and darker persuasions, and anywhere in between, understand that a baptism, an oath, a dedication, a devotion, that these things cause contracts, they cause links, they cause legal rights, they cause word of bond, they cause links and connections, sometimes servitude, as is the case with Yahweh. They cause, on a spiritual level, very real contracts, as mentioned. Now, what that means is that it is, in some cases, as I mentioned earlier, a willingly written piece of document that is written by the magician, by the sorcerer, that is burnt, signed with perhaps a signature or perhaps in blood, depending on the customs, morality, and desires of the deity and practitioner. So, and I'm not, by the way, saying that blood is evil. I have used blood in magic. I don't care. I personally don't think that that's negative. My own blood, by the way, never the blood of anyone else. But that said, you know, if the person willingly gives up something, that is a willing sacrifice. If they do it when they're sound of mind, when they are adults, when they can think for themselves, I have absolutely no problem with it. But hey, that is, again, another discussion for another time. So, when these contracts are established, usually through some sort of ritual, in this case, we are discussing baptism, of course, because that is how the Bible dictates that one needs to be dedicated to God. And I use that word in very big quotation marks. So these contracts are established. You get a contract which says you are now a Christian, you are now under the law of the Lord Yahweh. Because that's what the Bible is, right? It's the Word of God. So the Word of God outlines the law, and that law is the law of the Lord Yahweh. Now, what does being under the law mean? It of course means adhering to several things. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. And because I made a bargain with Lord Agaris, and I likely also spoke to other Germanic gods, because again, as I said, I knew about the Elder Futhark because I asked for it from Agaris, and Agaris teaches languages. The Elder Futhark is in some ways a language, a magical language, a spiritual language, and in some cases was even used as an alphabetical language by the Germanic tribes. Later on, this obviously became the Younger Futhark, which then became the Anglo-Saxon Futhark, used by the Norse, by the Scandinavian beings, by the Vikings, if you will, and then, of course, like I said, by the Anglo-Saxon peoples who had the Anglo-Saxon Futhark, which has Christian influences in it, but originally derives from the Pagan Futhark. Now, so as I said, I worked with other beings, and in Yahweh's eyes, this is obviously not cool. So Yahweh gets pissed off. Yahweh tells his guardian angel that he has assigned to me, and we will get to that part later. You're going to absolutely fuck up this guy's life until he comes groveling back to me. And that's literally pretty much in the contract. Of course, it's made a little more official and nicely sounding, but it roughly came down to that. So, for the past 500 years, my own supposed guardian angel has been harassing me, torturing me, sabotaging my attempts at happiness, and that sort of thing. So, here's where things get a little interesting if you are still perhaps a Christian, and of course if you take my word for everything I say, which I recommend you don't do. I recommend that you find things out for yourself, because I am just telling you what I personally experience. I don't, quite frankly, want any of you to take me at my word. I want you to realize things as they truly are, which in my experiences they are. because I've seen it in other people, I've seen it in myself, other people who have engaged with the metaphysical, who have opened their third eye, who have interacted with other beings, who have talked to spirits, who have talked to angels who do not work with Yahweh, who have talked to other gods on this planet, who have talked to other beings. They have all said the same thing. Yahweh is manipulating you. And it pretty much comes down to that. Now, why does it come down to that? Because when one becomes a Christian for the very first time, they get given a contract denoting you as a Christian, because that is the baptism, that is the oath you make to Yahweh. And again, the point I was trying to make earlier when I said that most gods respect that one needs to be of age, mentally developed, mentally stable, mentally sane individual that makes a contract with a particular deity. You approach Paimon tomorrow, okay, and you ask Paimon, I want to be really good at the arts, at music, at fine arts, whatever, okay, and you say to Paimon, look, I'm going to give you this and that if you are going to give me, I don't know, a familiar to help me become really good at playing drums or whatever. And okay, so you start practicing, and this familiar is subconsciously influencing you and guiding you to all these things that will help you become a better drummer. They're going to make sure that you find the right teacher. They're going to make sure that you memorize and process information properly. And, you start playing drums, you join a band, your band gets famous, okay? All right, Paimon has done for you what you needed to do, what he needed to do, or she needed to do, depending on who you ask, because, Paimon is a bit of an androgynous being. It's said to be a he, but has a feminine face, etc., etc., so I'll leave that up to you. But, basically, what then happens is, okay, you bargained with them, good job. All right, but he's not going to do that, or she's not going to do that with a 5-year-old or with a 10-year-old, because this person is quite frankly not capable of approaching them and bargaining with them. And this is quite frankly why I think that child baptism is absolutely sick. From a spiritual perspective, it is absolutely sick for that very reason, because you are forcing a child into servitude with a being they may not even want to work with. They will never know about this, for reasons that I will discuss further on. So first, the child gets born, they get baptized, alright, they get this dedication, they get this contract if they didn't already have it in their previous lives. Assuming you're watching this, you are going to be open to this idea of spiritual contracts. So, you get baptized, you get this contract, you move on with your life, start meditating. You don't know really if you believe in God, if you believe in Yahweh, if you believe in Jesus, or you become an atheist. Well, an atheist doesn't work with other beings. So, yeah, an atheist is a little different. But if you start actively engaging in the metaphysical later on in your life, because you are technically still dedicated to Yahweh, and because at the moment that you become a Christian, you get assigned a guardian angel. Guardian angel. And I use both of those words in quotation marks separately, because I don't believe that Yahweh's angels are actual angels. I have talked to many angelic beings of very many different varieties, and most of the angels in Yahweh's service are not actually angels. Secondly, the term guardian has a rather dark connotation to it, in the sense that it is not so much a protector as it is a legal guardian. Again, we'll get to that later. But so, for now, we have established you get baptized at birth, or perhaps even as a consenting adult, which, is your right. In that case, I have less objection to it, because you have made a hopefully informed and conscientious decision. Alright? Unless, of course, like in medieval Europe, people put a sword to your neck and tell you to convert or die. But, because that happened, and you're still stuck with that contract. So, as a shaman, as someone who works in the spiritual, and as someone who has learned about these contracts, I find it absolutely evil. So, you see where I'm getting at, because as I have established before in the previous video of August that I uploaded, I did not negotiate, even though I approached Agares willingly, an end to the contract. So for 500 years, Agares has let me keep the army, to be fair, but he also kept taking energy from me every month, because that was part of the deal. That was what I had negotiated with him. Which, okay, fair enough, was the fault of my previous incarnation for not being informed enough before approaching someone. But the point here is, I approached him, and I should have been more informed. And if you are a Christian who got baptized as an adult, I would tell you the exact same thing. You should have been more informed. However, here is where a few other catches are going to come into play. When you become a Christian, you are recognizing the Lord Yahweh, Jehovah, whatever, as the supreme divine creator. You are recognizing him as the almighty creator of the universe and everything in it, including yourself. In other words, you are to dedicate yourself to Yahweh and the Yahweh alone. It is in fact in the Bible, "Thou shalt have, as I mentioned earlier, no other gods before me." So what does that mean? Because you have promised to adhere to his law, you have promised to adhere to the Bible, you have promised to adhere to that commandment as well. So if you break that commandment, yeah, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me," the following thing is going to happen. That guardian angel that has protected you is going to be ordered to close your third eye, and Yahweh is going to give you a contract on top of the contract he's already given you. And it will read something like this: "This and that is your crime. You have consulted with false gods, false mystique, false spirituality, false gods, false goddesses, demons, Satan, blah blah blah. You have consorted with these beings. You are therefore a sinner. You got to cover yourself in filth, soot and ash, stuff like that. You are to cry to Yahweh, because that's apparently the only way you're going to get out of it, according to him. You're going to cry to Yahweh, you're going to get on your little human pathetic clay knees, and you're going to grovel and beg. And you're going to do so for a prolonged period of time, because you gotta, prove that you're really sincere about your need and want for forgiveness. Now, in that case, the guardian angel that has, through that second punishment contract, or that contract in which he is now assigned to punish you, he's going to make your life miserable, and the life after that, and the life after that, and the life after that. Because you see, Christianity obviously does not teach reincarnation. It teaches you that you go to heaven, hell, or purgatory, and then you go to heaven or hell. Unless, you're part of some extremist sect, like the Jehovah's Witnesses or something like that. But, that's what mainstream Christianity teaches, and what it has taught for roughly 2,000 years. So, you believe that after you die you go to heaven or hell to be tortured for eternity, but that's quite obviously not the case. And Yahweh knows this. But he doesn't care. He's not going to tell you that. So you reincarnate. You never negotiated when you got baptized an end to your service. So that contract remains active throughout lifetimes. So for the next hundreds, if not thousands of years, you are going to have an angel attached to you that is supposed to be your guardian, that is torturing you and maybe even those around you if it helps to achieve their ends, in order to make your life so miserable that you come crawling back to Yahweh because, Yahweh draws the poor and downtrodden, right? And you're supposed to be like little children, as the Bible says. You're supposed to be innocent, and you're supposed to adhere to his commandments, and once you stop doing that, you will get punished. So even if you repent in that life that you got the contract, or if you repent in a later life and you come back to Yahweh, as he will not stop harassing you over, whether you realize it or not, whether you have an open third eye or a half open third eye like I have had for most of my life, because that's kind of how I knew that after a certain after a certain age that I was, that things weren't quite as simple as heaven, hell, and Yahweh, and Christ, and Satan, and demons, and angels. There was just so much more to it than that. Of course, if you're a hardcore Christian, you're not going to believe this. And I get that. I didn't either. Even though I saw things and heard things that didn't make sense. Even though ever since I was a young boy, I felt the call of Odin. I felt Thor calling to me. Ever since I was young, I've had them call to me. Because I am a shaman in the Germanic tradition. Even though I'm eclectic and I work with gods and goddesses from the world over, even from outside the world. I have worked with beings that don't come from this planet, happily so. I have, as I said, in previous life worked with demons. I work with angelic beings who don't work for Yahweh. And I've worked with many other beings. I don't regret working with any of them, except Yahweh. So, but that was of course forced on me, because I was baptized as a child in that life, and maybe even in the lives before that, because, I have incarnated in Western Europe many times over, so, it probably wasn't the first life in which I was a Christian. But, anyway, to resume that, you break those laws, you get that contract. And what happens next is, if you repent, that guardian angel of yours, and by the way, the strength of your guardian angel, the rank they hold, mine was an archangel. Why? Because I got very high up in the Christian hierarchy in a few of my lives. And most people, they start out with a regular angel, if you can call it that, because we'll get to that a little bit later. I may even, upload several entries into this series aside from my Elder Fufart series. Depends on what reactions I get. And the way I see it, the more hate I get on this, the better, because then I know I'm, reaching people. So, basically, what happens is you come crawling back to Yahweh, right? That's what I did in this life, because, I was not really born in a Christian family, but my mom had been raised as one, and, it was kind of imprinted on me, and, well, of course, you have this spirit attached to you, and when you have a spirit attached to you, it whispers things into your subconscious like that, and, of course, so that starts drawing you. And you come crawling back, and guess what? The contract remained active. Because I didn't exactly complete what was in the contract. Because that contract was very, very specific. So, he ordered me, Yahweh that is, to do very specific things, like cover myself in dirt. Chant my name, for I am thy God, was one of the literal lines in that contract. And then he wrote Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh 3 times over. It's quite funny, because 3 is a very, very significant magical number that even Yahweh uses that. Because Even Yahweh has to adhere to certain universal laws. But, he won't tell you that. But anyway, so you come crawling back, you think you're repenting, but you're not really repenting because you still haven't repented of the sin you made 500 years ago. So the contract remains active. In my case, finances were a target. In my case, happiness, love, stuff like that, they were a target. Happiness, in general, basically. So, internally or externally. Because throughout my life I had to have excessive guilt over every little thing I did wrong. Why? Because this being is whispering into your subconscious, because you're a filthy sinner in the eyes of Yahweh. He just can't believe that you work with a filthy, evil demon. His words, not mine. Okay, so you think you're doing right. You think you're approaching this really loving, wonderful God, and oh, praise Jesus, and love and wonderful, and happiness, and light and benevolence, and oh, angels, and stuff like that. But you're not really. Have you read the Old Testament? Have you read what kind of fucked up things Yahweh does? Have you read what kind of sick God he is? Have you read how absolutely evil he is? How disgusting and despicable he is when he carries out retribution, killing tens of thousands of people because his loyal servant and ally, King David, carried out a census? What? Because he wanted to know, as king, how many fucking people he had working for him? He kills tens of thousands of people? Why? Kill every man. Kill every woman who has lain with a man. But save for yourself all the young girls and young women who have not lain with a man. So what about lesbian girls? You can take those? Oh no, that's right, because they would have been killed because they didn't lay with guys. Right. So, that's Yahweh. Now, of course, later on, he creates his little servitor, he creates his little avatar, and he calls it Jesus Christ, and then he says, oh, look, I'm a nice guy. I'll forgive you by killing my son, because apparently I can't forgive you by just forgiving you like a normal person would, if I really have to forgive you. Think about it. That's not a person you want to work with, or even for, especially not for, because that means that you are underneath him, which means he has power over you, which means he gets to decide what he does with you. But that's exactly what a baptism in the church is. And the church, by the way, I mean every church, not just the Catholics. And in this case, it doesn't really matter if you get baptized unwillingly as a baby, because then I feel sorry. And I feel sorry for you if you get baptized as an adult. I mean, I was baptized as an adult, but at the same time, could have done your research a little better. However, there's another catch. When you get a contract from working with other gods, and this is quoted directly from that contract I have, or had, I should say. It's no longer valid or active, but smoke covers the eye. It was a little plate with a bloodshot, cut-out eye. Of course, this is talking about this eye, not about these two, because these two work just fine. But smoke covers the eye, capitalized. So this was, of course, talking about the third eye, the brow chakra, the Ajna chakra. So that's part of what you use to read contracts like this. Because you look at things with your third eye, you get energetic impressions, and if you're clairvoyant, you may even physically see objects or persons or people. Now, if you're clairaudient, you can hear things. Or you may have all of these things, who knows. But you get this contract, which you are supposed to read, but you can't. Because that guardian angel that is attached to you is ordered through that contract to shroud it. Smoke covers the eye. So, and you know, every contract is unique, so your phrasing may be a little different than mine, but that protector of yours, that benevolent angel, he doesn't give a fuck about you. She doesn't give a fuck about you. All they care about is Yahweh. So, they're sitting there, and usually I found they're attached upper back up to the neck. There's a point here in the little hole here, the little dip at the base of the skull. It's called the zeal chakra, aka the mouth of God. That is oftentimes where you will find your guardian angel attached. Sometimes they're attached in multiple places in between that area. And this being has had lifetimes to attach itself to you at this point, most likely. If you are a person living in the USA or in Western and Central Europe, or Northern Europe, or Southern Europe, and I suppose, considering that Orthodoxy is a thing, pretty much all over the entire European continent, you have likely got one of these contracts. Unless you already found some other way to undo it. Which is possible, because I am going to be giving you later on a ritual to conduct for yourself, with which you can undo this. With which you can remove this contract entirely, including any and all punishments and corrections. Because that is, after all, the purpose of this video. So, if you have made it this far, that is what I'm going to be giving you in a little bit after I finish my little story and little background on why I decided to make this video in the first place and why I felt it was important enough to interrupt my Elder Fufark series. Your guardian angel doesn't, as I said, care about you. They will pretend to, because that's what they have to. And maybe in some ways they do care about you as long as you are a Christian. But never forget one thing, these beings serve Yahweh unconditionally. If they're still loyal in 2018, or whatever year it is now that you're watching this, they're not going to rebel anytime soon against Yahweh. Because if they have served Yahweh this long, the angels of Yahweh that didn't like what he was doing, 1/3 of the stars of heaven, as Revelation says, they're long gone. I work with a lot of them. Those fallen angels. Now keep in mind, on the topic of angels, and about what angels are, I feel the need to make a separate video on this, because I have very close connections to a lot of angelic beings. I do not feel comfortable expounding too much on this for the purpose of this video. However, I will later on talk a little bit about my definition of what angels are and the categories, because as you may have noticed, I have spoken about the angels of Yahweh specifically. And I've also said that most angels, in my experience, do not work with Yahweh. This angel, that is your guardian angel given to you the moment you become a Christian for the first time. It will continue being nice to you, how it may even save you or protect you. But there's always an ulterior motive to it. It's not because they care about you, or not that much, like I said. It is always for the glory of God. Because what better way to convince someone that Christianity is the true religion than to do nice things for persons? Now, of course, the same could be said about every god. But most gods will have the courtesy to ask you up front for payment. Yahweh doesn't do that. Yahweh also doesn't have any qualms about forcing contracts on people that last throughout lifetimes. Why? Because he wants the worshippers, he wants the followers, he wants the energy you give him. Because make no mistake, you are giving Yahweh energy as long as you have this contract active. As long as, on spiritual paper, you are a Christian. I don't care if it was 2,000 years ago. You are giving Yahweh energy. You are feeding that monster. You are feeding the same monster that says, kill every man, woman, and child in this and that tribe. Give them all to the flame. Give them all destruction. Kill every last one of them, including animals. The same being that gets pissed off at King Saul for not killing enough, that then says, I regretted making Saul king over Israel. You can find all this in your holy book if you don't believe me. All of it. Now, if you're absolutely brainwashed and insane enough to think to yourself that, oh, he has the right because he's God, you need to question your morals, my friend. Because if you think that a genocidal maniac like that has a right to rule over your body and dictate with it what you can and can't do, who you can have sex with, what gods you worship, how you have sex, etc., etc. Otherwise he's gonna stone you to fucking death. I'm sorry, what? That is the God you dedicated yourself to, whether you knew it or not. Now, like I said, if you are a baby, I don't blame you at all. In fact, I'm happy you're here, because hopefully you'll find some way out of it, and I am able to provide you one. I can't say that with a straight face. I have done this ritual with many other people that I know, and it has worked every single time. So, if you want to know, keep listening.